Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to our panel interview on digital technologies in everyday restorative dentistry. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank our panel members for joining us today. Dr. Andrea and Dr. Alessandro Agnini work in private practice in Modena and Sassuolo, Emilia-Romagna in Italy, focusing on fixed prosthodontic dentistry, periodontology and implantology, and both frequently lecture and teach around the world. Dr. Rupert Austin is a clinical lecturer and specialist in prosthodontics at King's College London Dental Institute. The discipline of prosthodontics focuses on aesthetic restoration and replacement of natural teeth using state-of-the-art technologies for the design and manufacture of dental restorations, including aesthetic veneers, crowns, bridges and implants for oral rehabilitation. Stephen Green is an early adopter of CAD/CAM technology. Along with digital manufacturing, he has developed the daily receipt of digital impressions, having restored over 1,000 restorations in the last 3 years. Stephen's dental studio has recently been awarded Most Innovative Dental Lab of the Year at the Laboratory Dental Awards in 2016. So we're delighted to have you here, gentlemen, for the 6th Annual Digital Symposium, and we'll move to the questions. So Rupert, if I could put the first question to yourself, please.
Absolutely, John.
Discuss the myths and realities of digital impressions, largely to dispel the myths regarding accuracy of fit and over-preparation that we hear regularly.
Okay, thanks for the question. We're at a really exciting time with intraoral digital impressioning. With their research data is now mature enough to show that a CAD/CAM produced restoration for a single unit crown using an intraoral impression is as accurate as a conventional impression for that restoration. And so we are at a time when the technology is now mature enough to be adopted for everyday restorative dentistry.
Thank you. We've heard a lot over the last few days about the digital workflow and also some of the technology that's entering into the market. And the next question I'd like to put to yourself, Steve, is discuss what to look for when working with printed models, 3D printed models.
I think one of the key elements, if you're looking at a printed model, is really to look at the virtual impression in the first place and look to see, as with an analog impression, whether there are any flaws in that at all. It's important to ensure that you have an accurate print from that impression in just the same way as it is with analog. So we don't really have to learn anything differently. We just have to use the same skills that we currently have and actually apply them to, if you like, to a different scenario. But you can take just as bad an impression digitally as you can in an analog format. So the important thing is to understand that, look at it and evaluate it and ensure that you have something accurate before you print. Because at that point, if the dentist calls you immediately and asks you to analyse and see if there are any faults, then you can, while the patient is still in the chair, you can go back and rectify that. And that's one of the advantages. The immediacy of it is excellent, really, for communication.
Is there a particular 3D printed model or material that's more suitable for implant work? It's one of the questions we've been
I think the important thing to look for, really, when you're analysing the materials that you're going to use is just how accurate they are. And I would suggest to my clients that if they are looking to start using digital technology for full arches, then perhaps the first few cases you take a conventional impression as well as a digital impression. And what you can do from that is you can create a verification jig which can be checked over both and then checked on the patient. So I think the materials are less important. They are important, but I think the key is finding something that works within your business and ensure the model materials are actually printed accurately, that they're actually cured accurately, and the analogues, well, cleaning them is a big essential part with alcohol, because if you don't, you'll end up with little drips inside where the analogues go that won't allow the analogue into position. So, a number of areas that you can analyse, that being one of them.
Okay, thank you. So a question to Alessandro and Andrea, if I may. Could you highlight the benefits of digital impressions and consequently a full digital workflow, combine it as well with new monolithic materials and describe the limitations we're possibly facing?
Yes, great question. I think, first of all, in my opinion, that it's important to clarify or to underlight the clinical and the lab technician knowledge must be always behind the scanner, and they are the fundamentals to achieve all the benefits that the new digital possibilities are actually offered in our clinical routine. And regarding all the benefits, there are no doubts that orthodontics, implant prosthetic dentistry are having digital revolution in it. And we should say, you should say that then that it would minimize thinking to the intraoral scanner only as instrument to permits to build only a crown on only ortho aligner is a great mistake.
Yes, because if you think about, I mean, the great revolution is going to be when the people and clinicians will understand how many workflows you can approach with these softwares. I mean, you can do diagnosis, you can do diagnostic mockups, night guards. The mockups can be like then the blueprint for the final prosthetic rehabilitation. You can combine them with monolithic materials that are ongoing, evolving, and the companies are really investing a lot now. For example, we have zirconia that is not like the same zirconia that we had like 10 to 15 years ago. So you can implement the use of the zirconia, you can implement the use of lithium disilicate in your workflow, and then of course you can combine it with the digital scanning and the digital possibilities. But as Alessandro, I think, made a great point by saying that the intraoral scanning is not only to do like an implant crown or a restorative crown. You can do night guards, you can do guided surgery, you can do diagnostic mockups, you can do. It's also a communication tool with the patient. I think about the color of tree shape. I mean, you can explain very easy in one word what is the decay, what is the recession, what is the mucogingival problem. And so this is really, I think, that what is going to be the turning point in the market. I mean, in our opinion, I mean, companies must invest in education and in educating the clinician that have to understand which are the workflows that they can apply every day. Because if you look at it only as like, okay, I have an implant crown, in one shot I can finalize it, yes, that's the great advantage. But then how many other things can you do? Can I do a night guard? Can I do an ortho? Can I do a diagnostic mock-up? Can I do guided surgery? Can I use it as to communicate with the patient? And so, of course, then it comes down to a learning curve. I mean, the learning curve is fundamental, it's mandatory, but it's mandatory also for a student that comes out of university and start understanding how to take a traditional impression, I think, because also in the traditional impression, how many variables do we have in a full arch implant impression, for example?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So do you think there's a significant point when somebody should invest in digital dentistry?
Yeah, I mean, they must invest because, I mean, thinking about all those companies that are investing in digital instruments, also companies that are producing traditional impression material, they must think about that. And the sooner they get on this train, the sooner and the best advantages will get at the end of the story. Because in 10 years from now, everybody will be digital. And if you're investing now, you're saving time to yourself in 5-10 years from now.
Thank you. Rupert, I'll put this one to yourself and then the other gentleman, if I may. I know you've done a lot of research on intraoral scanners. What are the limitations of intraoral digital impressions in crown and bridge and implants that you found during your research?
Well, I think the limitations mainly pertain to the full arch cases, as Steve was saying, and as we've seen today with the talk. So I think the full arch fully implant supported prosthesis is still not predictably restorable with a full intraoral impression, and for that type of case, the conventional impression will still be the gold standard. There is an enormous amount of research and development going on to minimize and to compensate for the known inaccuracies and errors that are inherent within the systems. So we're watching this space very, very carefully, and we're modifying our protocols. We've discussed a lot today about the importance of restoring to abutment level rather than fixture level to compensate for these. And we also have to take into account, are we going screw retained? Are we going cement retained? Because then the cement itself will compensate for some of these known inaccuracies. And so I think it's a time of real development and innovation in our profession, which is a great time.
Definitely.
Steve, I'll just put another question to yourself, if I may, and then following that, I'd like to move on to education with regard to digital dentistry. What benefits to the lab are there in accepting digital files from iOS systems, Steve? And do labs see the real potential of developing a digital workflow?
I think the advantages really, I think, are that if you are non-digital and you take on board digital, then it opens up a new seam of potential work, potential business. So I think from the point of view of a business always having to look for new clients, for new work, new types of work in order to develop both the business itself and the staff within it, then I think it's essential. And I can see no reason why any business, any dental laboratory wouldn't move into digital. I think in terms of actually then investing in it, buying the equipment to do that, I think you probably as a laboratory have two options. You can either just scan, so that means you buy the scanner, which is perhaps the least expensive element of it, and you scan and outsource, which means you have the control over an element of it, and that means that the 1- and 2-man labs, which make up perhaps the majority of most countries, I'm guessing, laboratory stock, if you like, it means that they can invest in that without spending too much money and outsource the work. Or, as we did, we bought into the manufacturing process, but that means you have to understand the manufacturing process, because there are two elements to CAD-CAM, if you like, and that is the CAD and is the CAM. It's the design and it's the manufacture. So that is another steep learning curve, and manufacturing is perhaps the harder part of it.
Thank you. So I'll move to a question about education, both for undergraduate and postgraduate as well. And it'll be also interesting to see, with two international speakers here, what the level of education is on digital in Italy. So the question is, when is the right time to be introduced to digital dentistry at dental school? When this should be covered, and why is continuing education and hands-on training so important? So Rupert, can I start with yourself?
Absolutely. Speaking as an educator and as an academic, we very much are committed to introducing our students to digital dentistry at exactly the same time that we're introducing the conventional techniques which are tried and tested over the years. So for example, at King's College London, this was the first year that we taught an SLM printed form of construction of a metal coping rather than casting. And so this is the time now to make sure that the next generation of dentists feel totally comfortable being able to adopt the technology in a responsible and ethical way that suits their practice and their patients. And we're very much committed to leading the education in that.
We'll stay on the clinical theme and then move to technology first.
Yeah,
All right,
definitely.
gentlemen.
I think that paradoxically, the undergraduates now are advantaged if you compare them with the postgraduate student or with the actual clinician, because they start with that, like they can start with the traditional traditional impression. So they don't know both, and they can carry on with both. So it's more difficult for somebody that learned and did already learning curve and is working like in an efficient way with a traditional impression to start again and put himself in discussion, and then invest on time, money, and really clinical time. And you have to start thinking to do things and then redo things. So undergraduates, in our opinion, are the digital native dentistry growing, and they will become like the digital dentistry expert.
And on technology side, Steve?
I think on technology, on the technology side, really, I think it needs teaching right from the beginning, because the age group that are now coming into dentistry, dental technology, are of an age where they are familiar with iPads and that type of device. So they're very familiar with manipulating a device of that nature. Whereas perhaps 10 years ago you would have people that were less familiar. So I think it's essential really now that the laboratory side covers all digital manufacture. Otherwise we just won't have in this country a manufacturing base for dentistry really, and that means the dentists won't then get the support from the laboratories, and it is very much teamwork. Everything the technician does is what is seen at the end of the day. When we see these beautiful presentations, somewhere behind there is a dental technician that is actually doing that work. I'm sure you always credit them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, time has beaten us, I think, unfortunately. I think we could carry on this session all day. So, Alessandro, Andrea, Rupert, Steve, thank you very much for your time. We hope you've enjoyed the session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.